Coming from the Santa Maria airport as well.
I'm seeing that wind moving too.
And we've got
what is the smell in the air right now?
Are you back here? If you can tell, what is you want to say?
The children from Los Barros Elementary School are being evacuated to the Coast Hills Credit Union in the village. Okay. All
right. Let's give you a look at this helicopter that's going over here. Just going to let this picture breathe there a little bit. Quite the scene out here. That's a sheriff's helicopter. Danny, let's toss it back to you there in the studio.
Hey, Sean, really quick, one more time, could we just get verification on where she said the Los Barros Elementary School students have been evacuated? To what area?
That sounded like a credit union in town. It's a pretty loud scene. I'm going to want to go double check with her so we can get that on our website, though.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. We're going to check back in with you in a little bit. Folks, that is Sean Larson on the ground right now reporting from the Rucker Fire, Rucker incident. And again, if you're just joining us right now, folks, it's 3:45 on Friday. An evacuation order has been issued to several Lompoc areas due to brush fires. And this is coming in from Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. The evacuation order is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon. It includes all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. If you are not in the evacuation area, but you feel you are in danger, do not wait for an evacuation order to leave. And this is a very serious statement that's coming from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, because no word yet on as they are trying to measure the scope of this fire. We know it's at least 200 to 300 acres in size. It started just after 2 o'clock, but with those 16-mile-an-hour winds, it's no telling how quickly this could spread. We've already have the firefight from the air, as you can see right there, planes flying in to drop Phos-Chek to try to control this fire, or at least contain it. But again, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying, if you do not feel safe, if you are not part of this evacuation area, but you do not feel safe, evacuate. And that is coming from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. The evacuation notice was sent by phone. It was sent to approximately 890 phone lines. And again, Vandenberg Middle School students who live in the Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, Highlands, and Bluffs neighborhoods, they were not able to ride the bus home. And so if you are a parent of one of these students, they need to be picked up at the school's multi-purpose room. And folks, if you are in that evacuation area, which is again Rucker Road east to Harris Grade, north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission, you're being told to go to the Red Cross shelter. It's going to be opening in just a few minutes. It opens at 4 p.m. That's at Lompoc High School, 515 West College Avenue. That is where you're being told to go to evacuate. That shelter opening again at 4 o'clock, and that's going to be at the school's gym. So again, mandatory evacuations have been ordered, and Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying that if you are in an outlying area and you don't feel safe, to evacuate anyway. We do not know what caused the fire, but here is a map showing the evacuation area. So if you live in that red region, you need to get out. And if you live around that area, and Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying you don't feel safe, you might want to evacuate too, as we don't know how quickly crews will be able to contain this fire. Again, it erupted just after 2 o'clock. That's when crews responded. We don't know what caused this. But again, this area that you're looking at. This is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And again, live shot of planes going in to drop Phos-Chek on this fire to try to contain it. Again, Jason Stiff has been monitoring this fire from the First Alert Weather Center. And Jason, if you could tell us right now, how are things looking as crews try to battle the blaze?
Yeah, right now a little bit more wind than we would certainly like. We have sustained wind at the Lompoc Airport of 16 miles an hour, gusting to 23. Thankfully, it is not that hot outside. We had a high in the upper 70s. It has decreased. Currently 70 degrees, the humidity 68%. That's all due to that onshore flow. We will still have these breezes through the evening hours until the sun goes down. Then that wind will weaken to less than 10 miles an hour, which is really good news. Expecting more of the low clouds and fog to start pushing onshore restore just like it did last night through early this morning. Had visibility down to a quarter mile or less in a few locations around Lompoc and Vandenberg Air Force Base. The breezes will return. There's another area of low pressure to our northwest. It's going to be pushing just over the California-Nevada border, and that will allow more of that breeze to continue tomorrow. So overnight tonight, that wind generally less than 10 miles an hour, but by tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have more 15 to 25 mile an hour wind at times, so keep that in mind. It will be very important to get on this fire as quickly as possible. The firefighters are working so hard. We fortunately have a cooling trend ahead, though. Tomorrow's highs around Lompoc, lower 70s instead of the mid to upper 70s that we had today. The breezes will be weaker on Sunday, which is also good news for us. And we don't have a big warming trend just yet, but we'll have complete details about that, as well as more conditions about the Rucker Fire coming up all the way through the afternoon and evening hours.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. And again, if you're just joining us right now, this Rucker Fire has prompted mandatory evacuations as per the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. And that evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purisima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purisima Mission. This is east of Lompoc, and 200 to 300 acres already burned. This started just after 2 o'clock. So this fire erupting and reports of 4 to 6 fires. So we're calling this the Rucker incident. And our reporter, Sean Larson, who is live near that fire, was just speaking with a fire official. And folks, if you are in that area, it's very important to evacuate and keep those roads clear. And the reason for that is these firefighting vehicles are very large and they need the roads to get to this fire. As right now you're seeing these fire drops from the air trying to contain this blaze. But again, 200 to 300 acres in just a matter of less than 2 hours. This is a very aggressive fire. And police ask people to avoid the area near this Rucker incident. And also we appreciate all the viewer pics that you've been sending us. But again, folks, make sure to keep those roads clear for fire crews as they make their way up and for CHP to make their way up and try to assist anybody that hasn't been able to evacuate. But here's some of the pictures, just very ominous as you see this smoldering fire out in the distance, these plumes of black and gray smoke emerging from this Rucker incident. Again, if you're just joining us right now, the evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purisima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purisima Mission. And Santa Barbara County Sheriff's also saying that if you are in a surrounding area and you're seeing this fire outside your home or office, if you don't feel safe, you're being urged to not wait for that evacuation notice and to just evacuate, to get out of there. Now, the evacuation notice was sent to 890 phone lines. And again, Vandenberg Middle School students who live in the Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, Highlands, and Bluffs neighborhoods, they were not able to take a bus home after school today. So if you live in that area and your student goes to Vandenberg Middle School, they will need to be picked up at the school's multi-purpose room. And speaking of schools, if you are in that area and you've been evacuated, the evacuation shelter is at Lompoc High School. That is at 515 West College Avenue. And that's going to be opening up in about 8 minutes. It opens at 4 o'clock. It's going to be at the school's gym. That is the designated evacuation zone right now for this Rucker fire incident. So again, if you're a student, if you're a parent and your child is a student at Vandenberg Middle School and you live in Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, Highlands, and Bluff neighborhoods, these are some of the evacuation areas. Your student was not able to get the bus to take the bus home today, so you'll need to pick them up at the school's multi-purpose room. Again, if you are in this evacuation area, you are being urged to leave immediately. And let's take a look at that map again that actually shows that evacuation area, if we can pull that up really quick. Okay, we don't have it yet, but as you can see out in the distance, you can see these plumes of smoke. And again, let's take a look at that map of that evacuation map so you can see this area. Again, and kind of the eastern part of Lompoc, east of Vandenberg Village. You're looking at it right here. If you are in this area, you need to get out of that area. And Jason Stiff now joins us now from the First Alert Weather Center.
Yeah, so once again, fortunately, the temperatures are not very high. It's only 70 degrees at the Lompoc Airport. Humidity is high because of the onshore flow. Currently 68%, but that wind, that's the problematic part of this. Sustained at 16, gusts to 23, and we're not going to be done with that just yet because of this trough of low pressure that's approaching us from the Oregon coast. It's also putting the jet stream right over top of us. Now, as we look at the cloud conditions, last night through early this morning, we had lots of low clouds and fog that pushed on shore. We're expecting more of that overnight tonight, but we'll also have a little bit more of that wind. Looking at futurecast for the wind, we'll still have that wind slowly but surely decreasing. Here's 9 o'clock tonight. This is what we want to see. Most areas with wind less than 10 miles an hour, specifically around the Lompoc Valley. It will strengthen, though, as we move through tomorrow afternoon. Here's noon on Saturday. Unfortunately, a lot of wind between 15 and 25 miles an hour. Higher gusts also a possibility. It will still weaken as we move into Saturday night into early Sunday morning. We won't have quite as much in the way of marine layer influence, so a little bit drier, but thankfully we don't have a heat wave coming our direction. Tomorrow's highs around Lompoc, lower 70s. Today we briefly reached the upper 70s, but at least the temperature is going the right direction for us, and we still have a much larger trough of low pressure that will bring even cooler air our direction as we move into the latter part of the weekend and early next week. But thankfully, the firefighters are jumping on this very quickly and hitting this fire hard, the entire complex, several spots. It's spreading rapidly, as you can see by all those photos, all of that smoke going rapidly from west to east with that westerly wind. So we're going to continue to monitor this through the afternoon and evening hours right here. Make sure you don't change your channel. We'll have all the information that you need.
All right, Jason, we definitely appreciate your coverage this morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Danny Max. Thank you for joining us. Some breaking news into our newsroom. And folks, you're watching KCOY 12. And for all you viewers tuning in to News Channel 3, we thank you for joining us for this breaking news, this Rucker Fire incident, this fire burning just east of Lompoc, this brush fire prompting evacuations, mandatory evacuations issued by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department of Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying if you are not in this evacuation area, which again, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And they're saying if you are not in this evacuation area, but you do not feel safe, if you feel you are in danger, do not wait for an evacuation order to leave. They are advising you to get out now, and they're going to continue to keep us updated as they try to get a handle on this fire. Again, 200 to 300 acres of acreage already burned since this fire was reported just after 2 o'clock. Crews have been flying in planes to drop phosphatic to try to get a handle on this blaze. This evacuation notice was sent to approximately 890 phone lines. And also very important, if your child is a student at Vandenberg Middle School and you live in Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, Highlands, and Bluff neighborhoods, they were not able to get the bus, to take the bus home today. So they need to be picked up at the school's multi-purpose room. And again, if you are in this evacuation zone, you are being urged to evacuate to the Red Cross shelter. It's opening it opens at 4 o'clock, so it's opening right now. And that shelter is at Lompoc High School, 515 West College Avenue. And that is just going to be opening at 4 o'clock, so you can probably get in there now. Again, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying if you are in an evacuation area, you need to leave immediately. And one of the areas why it's very important to evacuate is we need to keep these roads open so fire crews can get in and assist this fire, and possibly a CHP possibly assisting people that aren't able to evacuate. So we need to keep these roads open for them. As you can see, we're getting a live look right now. This is east of this fire. We have crews on the ground surveying this. As you see these thick plumes of smoke out in the distance, just billowing up as this fire continues to build and spread. Again, very aggressive fire. 200 to 300 acres burned. Broke out just after 2 o'clock. We don't know what caused it. There are some reports that it's possible it was from a car, possibly dragging a chain that could have sparked a vegetation fire that could have created this. But we're not sure right now. Again, fire crews' number one concern right now is getting this fire under control. Again, this evacuation area, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. If you are not in this evacuation area, though, and you feel that you could be in danger or you see that fire encroaching, you are being urged to evacuate immediately. And again, updates will be sent out as they come in. Again, that evacuation area is Rucker Canyon Road east to Harris Grade, north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And Jason Stiff joining us right now from the First Alert Weather Center. And Jason, you are tracking conditions on the ground as crews try to battle this blaze.
Yes, and the good news is it's not very hot around the Lompoc Valley, and the air is humid. We have the onshore flow, currently 70 degrees at the airport. The humidity, a high 68%. Now, today's high temperature was actually in the upper 70s, but it did decrease. But problematic, as you can see, the wind. West at 16 miles an hour, gusting to 23, and we're not yet done with it because there's another area of low pressure currently further up the west coast near the Oregon coast that will start dropping our direction, as well as the jet stream being in our vicinity. So we're still going to have the breezes returning. Thankfully, overnight tonight, we do expect more of the marine layer to push on shore, and the wind will, for a few hours, begin to weaken. First of all, with the wind, as you can see looking at Futurecast, especially around the Lompoc Valley, it does decrease through the mid-evening hours. This is nice to see. All the wind in the single digits around the central coast. It will be stronger along the south coast, a little bit of a sundowner situation, but not for the Lompoc area. However, late tomorrow morning through the early afternoon hours, that wind will increase again. It won't be a really strong wind from most locations, but stronger than we want it to be. Sustained 15 to 20 with gusts at least to 25 miles an hour, especially in the higher terrain. Thankfully, on Sunday, the wind will not be as strong. We will also have a lot of sunshine, and there will also be a little bit of a cooling trend coming for our area. For the Lompoc Valley, we do expect temperatures to be cooler by about 4 to 5 degrees tomorrow. Lower 70s for highs tomorrow afternoon rather than the upper 70s that we had today. So tonight we'll have gradually increasing clouds coming off of the ocean. Overnight lows around the Lompoc area will be in the lower 50s with low clouds and fog, much like we had last night through this morning, and at times around Vandenberg Air Force Base and Lompoc. The visibility was at or slightly below a quarter mile, but it did increase. So watch out for lower visibilities, not only due to the fog, but obviously the smoke. You need to stay safe. The wind will be still stronger than we want it for the next several hours, weakening tonight and then coming back tomorrow afternoon.
Much, Jason. If you're just joining us now, folks, breaking news this afternoon: an evacuation order has been issued due to several fires in the Lompoc area. That evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima. And the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office also urging you that if you are near that area and you do not feel safe, to evacuate, to self-evacuate before that order is issued, because this is a very aggressive fire. It's already burned 200 to 300 acres since it broke out just after 2 o'clock. And folks, News Channel 3's CJ Ward joining us now. And CJ, definitely difficult conditions as crews try to get a handle on this very aggressive fire.
Yeah, this is a huge fire. You can tell how quickly this started, about 2 o'clock? Mm-hmm. So look at the size of that fire, and it started just 2 hours ago. So this is obviously a dangerous fire. We also have information, I don't know if you've passed this along yet, but 4 o'clock, the Red Cross shelter opens up. You have passed that along?
Right. The address to that, folks, that's at Lompoc High School. That's at 515 West College Avenue. And that has, as CJ just said, that has just opened.
Okay, good. And again, we've heard 200 to 300 acres at this point, 50 to 100 structures that are threatened. 200 to 300 acres, I believe that was in from about 45 minutes ago or a half hour ago, so that number is going to change dramatically. And again, they're calling this the Rucker incident, and this is east of Harris Grade near Lompoc. What is interesting here is that this isn't one fire. This is 3 fires, and I heard it actually started with possibly as many as 6 fires. And there you can see some of the air support coming in right now to try and fight this fire.
Yeah, and definitely, as Jason was just mentioning from the Weather Center, you know, these 16-mile-an-hour winds not helping crews. Again, not super high winds, but again, a little higher than we want them to be, because this, as you said, is a very aggressive fire. And you said that number probably has jumped in the last 45 minutes, because that was when we last heard that it was about 200 to 300 acres.
You know, one thing that's interesting about a fire, when you look at a fire of this size, this magnitude, something that's growing so fast, you can see the smoke that's going almost straight up. And if the winds were really strong, you would see it lay very low to the ground, which tells us this is a fuel-driven fire. This means that it's burning in probably pretty thick brush. It's not so much the winds that are pushing it along, but it's just burning hot, and it's just burning over the terrain, and nothing's really going to stop it. Bad news is if the winds do kick up in this case, you'll start to see the wind start to lay down and go sideways. And we certainly don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, and what's been great is seeing how quickly crews are jumping on this fire, and how quickly they issued that evacuation order. And again, Vandenberg Middle School students, and here's a map of this again, just to give you these areas. This evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon. It includes all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. Again, if you have a student who goes to Vandenberg Middle School and you live in Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, Highlands, and Bluff neighborhoods, your student was not able to take the bus home today. They will need to be picked up at the school. We've also learned, because our reporter Sean Larson is live near that fire, and he spoke to a fire official there who told us that the Los Barros Elementary School students were evacuated to a nearby credit union as well. And if you are in that evacuation zone, the Red Cross shelter has just opened. That is at Lompoc High School. Again, that address 515 West College Avenue. The evacuation center is in the school's gym, and you can go there now if you need to evacuate.
You know, I'm not going to, if we're talking about 6 fires, if this is how it started, is that what you heard? Well, it's 3 burning now, but did it start with 6?
We heard 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Somewhere in that range.
Okay, so you know, just years and years of covering wildfires like this, when we've had incidents where multiple fires have broken out at the same time, especially if it happened along a road, it's associated with a vehicle somehow, because just 6 fires just don't break out out of nowhere. I know officials are not going to talk this early about what started this fire, but when we've had that happen before, it's usually a vehicle that's responsible for starting multiple fires along the same route. So just even have 3 fires burning right now is very suspicious. I would imagine that's what fire investigators are looking at right now.
Right. CHP, their traffic incidents webpage actually says they are investigating the possibility that, you're absolutely right, a vehicle in that area may have been dragging a chain, and that could have sparked these fires, which is definitely a very hazardous thing to be doing with these dry conditions, this dry vegetation. We had that very rainy season. We had all of that rainfall, so there was just all that vegetation out there, so just fuel for the fire.
You know, it's surprising how many times over the years we've had fires that have started just like this, huge fires that have started. We had one up at the Cuesta Grade not too long ago, same thing, started with a chain that was dragging behind a pickup truck or an RV of some sort, and just triggering fires in the brush right along the side of the road. And also what we end up hearing about with many times with those types of fires is we find out later that there were people that were following behind the vehicle calling into 911 to tell CHP that, hey, there's a vehicle dragging a chain right now starting fires. So I don't know if that's going to happen in this case, but whenever you have that many fires breaking out along the same route, chances are that something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And you know, the other thing we could be looking at here, at least weather-wise, it's a good thing that this didn't happen 3 days ago or 4 days ago when we were just going into the heat.
Right.
Now we're talking about a much cooler trend, maybe 10 degrees cooler than what we've seen over the last 10 to 15 degrees cooler than what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 days.
And speaking of the weather, let's get it over to Jason Stiff. He joins us now from the Weather Center, and he's monitoring conditions there near that fire. Hi, Jason.
Hi, there he is. I was just updating the latest observations out of the Lompoc Airport as of just about 5 minutes ago. Fortunately, the temperature has dropped a little bit. The wind not as strong. Sustained wind is the same, but not gusting quite as bad. It's 68 degrees. Humidity has actually risen to 70%, so we still have onshore flow. That's very good news, but we would really like that wind speed itself to settle down a little bit more. That's still a few hours away. We still have the jet stream in the vicinity. Still the breeze is blowing around much of the central and south coast. But last night, if you remember, especially late in the night, we had the low clouds and fog pushing on shore. The wind really subsided, and that's what we're expecting tonight. And you can see that on Futurecast by 9 o'clock. As you can see, most of the central coast outside of Paso Robles well to the north. In San Luis Obispo County, single-digit wind speed. The South Coast, different story. Sundowner wind effect is going to be for the South Coast, but not for the Lompoc Valley. Tomorrow afternoon, and even by the late morning hours, the wind will increase again. Most locations with wind between 15 and 25 miles an hour. Higher gusts will be a possibility, especially over the higher terrain. That also will weaken as we move in through Saturday night into Sunday morning. We'll also lose some of that marine layer influence for a day or so. More of it is coming Monday and Tuesday with a further cooling of our temperatures. Now, we do expect more of the low clouds and fog to push on shore than what Futurecast is depicting. Much like last night, areas around Vandenberg Air Force Base, Lompoc, and Santa Maria have visibility at or below a half mile for several hours before it began to rise out of the way. So overnight tonight, we'll still have a mild night. The breezes will subside, but that's still a few hours away. Overnight lows will be in the upper 40s and lower 50s, specifically for Lompoc, expecting a low of 52 degrees with low clouds and fog pushing on shore. Weaker wind during the overnight hours, but it will return again by late tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. And folks, if you're just tuning in now, breaking news, an evacuation order has been issued, and this is due to several fires in the Lompoc area. The evacuation area is Rucker Road, east to Harris Grade, and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And you are being told to evacuate to the Red Cross shelter that just opened up. It's at Lompoc High School. The address, 515 West College Avenue, and you can go there right now. It's at the school's gym, and that's where you can go if you need to evacuate. They're also saying, the county sheriff's also saying, if you don't feel safe, if you're just outside that evacuation zone and maybe you don't feel safe, to go ahead and evacuate, because as we're just learning, the Santa Maria Times reporting right now, this fire acreage estimates now well over 300. This fire started just after 2 o'clock, CJ.
You know, we were just talking about the wind. If you're in the fire zone or if you're anywhere close to this fire, that's what I've always done when I've been out at a fire scene. Watch the wind, because the wind's going to tell you where that fire is headed. If you have any but I agree with you completely. If you have any questions about whether it's safe where you are, don't even question it. Get out. You can always go back. Picking up on what Jason just talked about with some of the numbers, the one thing here that is promising is it's 70% humidity. That is a lot of moisture in the air. That really that can be powerful enough to hold a fire in this kind of in check. I mean, a big fire, it's tough because a big fire can create its own weather conditions for the most part. But 70% humidity, it is an onshore flow coming off the ocean, so that is good news. Many times we'll see fires like this burning in 90, 95, 100-degree heat with 15% humidity or 20% humidity. That, for firefighters, is the worst combination. Then you throw into it wind, and it's just unstoppable. If you look off in the distance there, almost in the middle of your screen, you'll see see the black smoke coming up. That is just a hot spot. You wonder what's burning there. You hope it's not a structure. But when you see all that white smoke and then you see a plume of black going up, the fire's probably just hit something. Sometimes it's a patch of trees, eucalyptus trees or whatever. Eucalyptus has a lot of oil in it, so it'll burn black. But that fire, for the most part, you can see the smoke is just kind of just sitting there. It's not pushing from one side of the screen to the other. Going just kind
upward,
of wafting up into the air.
Said, yeah.
So that gives us a good sense of what the winds are doing. And that is a big fire right there. For just 2 hours, that's a big fire.
Yes, absolutely. Santa Maria Times reporting this acreage now estimated well over 300, especially for a fire that just broke out after 2 o'clock. So just burning a little more than 2 hours. And also, we have a reporter on the scene there who just spoke with a fire official, and they were urging people that are in that area to evacuate and also keep those roads open, because fire crews are trying to get in there to fight this fire. And we've been seeing, as we look at this live shot of this fire burning just east of Lompoc, you see it right there, planes. That possibly could be a plane about about to drop Phos-Chek over it, but we've been seeing planes coming in and just kind of bombarding this fire with Phos-Chek, hoping to gain the upper hand on it.
And you bring up another great point. The other problem that firefighters run into with fires like this, looky-loos, trying to get in, take pictures, they want to get closer, they think it's safe that they can get in this close. The problem, though, is a lot of the roads are very narrow, 2-lane, and you've got large fire equipment trying to get in and get out, and they're trying to do it very quickly. So any vehicles that are even close to the fire zone, roads trying to even get into that direction, cause a major problem for the firefighters. So I know we haven't heard it from them, but I'm going to say it. Just stay away from the fire zone, because really firefighters have to get in, they have to work, they have to bring in large equipment, and that just it just helps them out. It really does.
And also it keeps you safe. You want to be careful of this fire and get away from it, because, CJ, as you were pointing out, those winds can change. You never know what that fire might do. They can be very unpredictable, which is why Santa Barbara County Sheriff's saying right now that if you don't feel safe, if you're kind of in that area, and like you said, CJ, keep an eye on those winds, see what direction they're blowing. But if you don't feel safe, might be best to just evacuate. You can always come back. As you see
how low they are getting, how low they're going in to make those Phos-Chek jobs. You know, the other thing is, too, late afternoon is always a dangerous time, too, is the wind switch, change direction. We get the onshores, we then switch to offshores. What have we seen here? We've seen mostly fixed-wing aircraft in this. We haven't seen really any air cranes come in yet, but I would imagine they're bringing in all kinds of aircraft to fight this fire. This would be... here's the other thing that's interesting with a fire like this. When you're talking... a fire breaks out, a fire just like this, and you've got 20 fires burning around California, it sucks all the resources. I'm not aware of any really large fires burning in California right now, at least in this immediate area, so that would help bring more resources onto this fire. So hopefully we'll see a lot of aircraft really attacking this fire, because this would be a priority fire for the fire department.
And, you know, just coming in right now, Santa Barbara County, their official Twitter tweeting out that this Rucker Fire, the Mesa Oaks and Sabata Canyon, under a warning and may need to evacuate. The updates are posted on their web, but we're also having continuing coverage on this. So, folks, definitely, if you are out and about, be sure to check our website. Go to KEYT.com for all the latest. Make sure to use our app. And Jason Stiff joining us right now from the First Alert Weather Center as he's tracking fire conditions right now.
Yeah, well, we still have plenty of smoke in the air around the Lompoc Valley. As you know, the temperature in the last couple hours has dropped a couple degrees. It's down to 68 degrees. Humidity has risen about 9 to 10%, now up to 70%. The wind sustained still the same at 16 miles an hour. We had 23 mile an hour gusts earlier. Those have subsided, but we're not done with the windy weather just yet, because we still have a trough of low pressure that's pushing our direction, causing more of the breezes to blow. The jet stream is in our vicinity. I wish we had some rainy weather, but that is not in the cards for us. That's well to the north over the Sierra. We do expect more of the low clouds to start pushing on shore. If you were awake late last night, you notice how quickly the visibility went to almost zero around Lompoc and Vandenberg Air Force Base, down to a quarter mile at times. Same thing for Santa Maria. Well, we got out of those clouds fairly quickly this morning, but we also expect more of the clouds tomorrow morning also. Now, how about that wind? It is going to be getting weaker over the next several hours, but we're not done yet. It's going to be weaker once the sun goes down. As we look at futurecast by 9 o'clock tonight, this is the good news. Many parts of the Central Coast, especially Lompoc, with wind in the single digits, only about 5 miles an hour, give or take, but it will get stronger late tomorrow morning through early tomorrow afternoon. A lot of sustained wind between 15 and 20 miles an hour, with some gusts between 20 and 30, especially in the higher elevations. Now, we do expect a little bit weaker wind on Sunday. That's before another trough of low pressure moves our direction for Monday and Tuesday. The good news about that, it'll bring in cooler weather. Today's high in Lompoc reach the upper 70s. Tomorrow, we're looking for lower 70s, and also still the breezes, but we'll also have more of the marine layer influence. We're going to have more low clouds and fog than what Futurecast is depicting right now, but by tomorrow afternoon, we'll still have a lot of sunshine tonight. Again, overnight lows in the upper 40s and lower 50s. 52 degrees for a low around Lompoc with low clouds and fog pushing back on shore, but obviously air quality down because of all the smoke in the air. That wind will be strong for the next few hours, weakening after sunset, and then coming back tomorrow morning and early afternoon.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. And folks, if you're just joining us now, breaking news, mandatory evacuations for areas east of Lompoc as fire crews try to get a handle on what's being called the Rucker incident, a series of several fires. And we're getting actually live pictures of grass burning right now. So folks, again, the evacuation areas, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. If you are in the evacuation area, you're being told to leave immediately. And Santa Barbara County's fires, Michael Eliason actually just tweeting out this fire, 300 acres, 0% contained, just started after 2 o'clock.
And if you want to follow somebody on Twitter, Michael Eliason is the one to do it. He always ends up with amazing photos of fires. That live shot we just saw, do we know exactly where that is from? Okay, we do. We're somewhere near Lompoc. We're going to try and get the exact location for you, but you can see there active fire burning right there. Again, we're going to try to get you an exact location for you.
This is in the Mission Hills area we're hearing, and actually we are, Sean Larson is with Michael Eliason. They're going to have a live report coming up at some point with the latest. He's actually with him right now as they get closer to this fire and try to learn more. And a couple other things just to be aware of, folks. If you are in this evacuation area, the Red Cross Evacuation Shelter opened about 20 minutes ago. That is at Lompoc High School. The address 515 West College Avenue in the gym. And again, if you are in a surrounding area and you don't feel safe, again, because this has burned 300 acres in just over 2 hours. So if you don't feel safe, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's advising you to go ahead and evacuate. Another thing very important right now as we look at, we saw that fire truck there.
If I can just jump in, that live shot we just saw, I'm just hearing that right there is Rucker Road.
Okay.
So we're talking about the Rucker Fire. Chances are this is probably close to where the fire may have started or somewhere along that stretch of Rucker Road. If you're curious, firefighters one of the first incident commanders will show up at an incident and name the fire based on a location, a ranch, or something like that. So this is called the Rucker Fire. Chances are that fire, that's where it broke out, was somewhere along that stretch of road.
Yeah, and very important too, as we just saw that massive fire engine outside that home there. Very important for folks in those evacuation areas or near them to keep the roads open, to not block them, especially in these narrow roadways, so that way fire crews can get up to these areas, possibly get people out that maybe have not been able to evacuate. So very important to keep those roadways clear, the looky-loos, because you also want to keep those roads open and also stay safe because, again, 300 acres in just over 2 hours.
Yes, you can see some flames right in the middle of your screen coming over a little ridge. So this fire, that gives you a sense of just how widespread the fire is. This is a great angle to see this fire. You can see the flame in the middle. You know there's a lot of flame probably behind that wall of smoke, and it stretches out to the right and stretches off to the left. So a widespread area for a fire that only broke out about 2.5 hours ago. But you can clearly see flame right there in the middle of your screen.
Yeah, and if you are in that evacuation area, folks, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying you should go to the Red Cross shelter. It just opened about 20 minutes ago. It's at Lompoc High School. That is 515 West College Avenue. The gym is the site of that evacuation center. And if your children attend Vandenberg Middle School and you live in Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, really quick, we're going to get, as soon as Vicki Nguyen is ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to Vicki Nguyen, and she's with Michael Eliason.
Hi, yes, we are on Rucker Drive here in Lompoc, and I have Michael Eliason, the PIO for County Fire. Mike, tell us about what's going on and where the craziest spot is right now.
Yeah, right now we're on Rucker Road. We're just by Via Arella. We've got, the fire originally started with 6 small spot fires that were phoned in. Fire crews originally found that out, that those fires were growing. They anticipated what was going to be the biggest, and they started working on those. Right now, the big concern that we have are the 3 major fires of that. The one portion is the one near where we are now. Then we've got one just north of us. Those 2 are going to burn together, okay? And that's when they're going to come together, and that's where we're going to start attacking that one. We have another one south of us near the Mission. That's one that's a concern as well. We evacuated everywhere from east of Harris Grade through Sabata Canyon and north to 246. A lot of those folks have been evacuated. or asked to evacuate.
Yes, and we're standing really close to some flames over here, and just over on this side, this is where people are living. So tell us about how evacuation orders have been in place and what's that, how that's been going on.
Yeah, the fire crews got on scene, and again, they jumped into a quick attack as best they could. They knew that there were going to be structures threatened, and as you can tell, we have structures that are threatened. The Sheriff's Department initiated a reverse 911 call to get those folks to try and let them know that they had to evacuate. We're asking them to please do so. We've got fire crews, as you can see, we have fire right across the street from the homes. We've got engines still coming into the area, so we'd ask everybody, if you're going to try and come up to the area, to look at the fire. I know it's exciting to see, but please stay out of the area. We have a lot of equipment, and if you're driving towards the fire and you're looking at the smoke, you don't see that engine coming up behind you. We don't want to have any accidents, so we ask you please stay out of the area if you don't have a reason to be here.
Mike, one last question. Earlier, before we went live, you told me that flames were going up on a hill somewhere.
Yeah, we have word just now that the fire that we're looking at right behind us has kind of hopscotched over the hill and down past Los Barros School and is starting to make a run up the canyon on the other side of the school. So as you can see, we've got a lot of aircraft overhead, both fixed wing and helicopter, and they're starting to concentrate their efforts on that hillside just to the east of Los Barros School.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike. I know you're busy, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, so just to tag what Mike was telling us earlier, if you don't have any business to be in the area, please don't come into the area to take photos. There are still definitely a lot of residents on the street on Rucker Road who seem like they're not leaving at all, but they are advising you to leave. If you even live near the area, not quite in the area, and you have any health concerns or anything like that, if you're older, it's going to take you a little bit longer to leave your homes to evacuate. You should definitely do it now. But we will be following this case, this fire for a long time tonight, and we were also going to follow Mike to go to some other flames in the area as well. So keep it locked on our channel as well as our social media platforms. Reporting live in Lompoc, I'm Vicki Nguyen.
Be safe out there. We thank you very much for your reporting. And as you saw, she was right there in it. You saw those flames all around them.
You know, Mike Eliason said some really interesting things in that interview right there. The first one that caught my attention was he says they've got 2 fires to the north of where they're located. Those 2 fires are going to burn together, and then they're going to attack that fire. So it tells me they're really trying to prioritize their resources. They're probably spread really thin right now because the fire, they haven't received any backup yet other than what they're getting from the air. So they're trying to prioritize, and they've got those 2 fires that then once they burn together, they're going to attack that. They've got another one burning to the south near the Mission, La Purísima Mission. And then they've got this activity just near where near that live shot, near the Los Barros School that's burning on a hillside there. So this really is a dangerous fire. It's spread out in so many different directions, and they just have to prioritize where they're going to hit this fire.
And that's interesting what Eliason said, because he said that fire hopscotched near the Los Barros School. That school, as we've been told by Sean Larson, who's over there, that school was evacuated to possibly a nearby credit union.
You know, and when they talk about hopscotching, you're talking about winds. These fires tend to hopscotch in wind, and you can see there in some of these shots when they pull back wide, you can see the trees moving around. So, you know, the fire itself, again, creates its own weather conditions, and sometimes it can kick up enough wind where it really can't kick up wind, and the fire starts to hopscotch. You get these embers that blow forward by, 50 feet or, 20 yards or, 50 yards, and they start a whole separate fire. And when those conditions when firefighters just can't keep up with those kinds of conditions, you're really talking about a very dangerous fire, especially near a populated area.
And why it's also important, as you're seeing right here, the banner, the public is asked to avoid these areas, not just for your own safety, but so firefighters can access the flames. I know that, as Eliason was saying, these fires are exciting to look at, and it's great to get a photo, but, can be very dangerous because crews are trying to get up these roads so that they can fight these fires. All right, now we are going to go over to Jason Stiff. Speaking of all that weather, he's tracking fire conditions right now from the First Alert Weather Center.
Yeah, you can see all the leaves on the trees near Rucker right there, as well as the smoke still pushing through the air. 16-mile-an-hour wind at the airport in Lompoc. Thankfully, not as strong as it was an hour to an hour and a half ago, but we did have wind gusts between 20 and 25. Also, good news, temperature not that hot. It's actually decreased from the upper 70s earlier in the afternoon to currently 68 degrees. That humidity with that onshore flow, it's really good to see. 70%. It could easily be 20% if we had offshore flow. instead of onshore. The reason why? Here comes another trough. It's bringing in the breezes, which we don't want, but it's also bringing in a little bit more of the cool air and also more of the marine layer influence. So overnight tonight, if you remember from last night, we had the low clouds and fog pushing onshore. We're expecting more of that tonight as well, and the wind that we currently have will begin to weaken. Looking at futurecast for our wind speed. The good news is, especially around Lompoc, single-digit wind according to the model, and that is what we're expecting for most of the central coast. It will be stronger for the south coast, though. A sundowner condition for the south coast coming off the San Ynez range, but that is not for the Lompoc Valley. Now, late tomorrow morning through the early afternoon hour, that wind will begin to increase once again. A lot of places between 15 and 20 miles an hour, but wind gusts between 20 and 30 are not out of the question. It won't be as strong Saturday night into Sunday morning as it will be tonight into tomorrow, which is a good direction for us as far as the wind severity is concerned. We also don't have any good chances for wet weather. That's not a surprise, but the really good news is we don't expect another heat wave. We actually will have temperatures cooler tomorrow than they were today. Today around the Lompoc Valley, we had upper 70s for highs, expecting a high of 72 degrees tomorrow afternoon. We'll also have the low clouds and fog for the morning hours and then some more afternoon sunshine. So tomorrow morning, we'll have more low clouds and fog. Very comfortable as well for Lompoc specifically, 52 degrees for low. Same thing for Santa Maria, and a little bit warmer than that around San Luis Obispo. We're going to continue to follow all the weather conditions, not only for the Lompoc Valley, but all of the central and south coast going forward through the afternoon and evening hours.
Very much, Jason. And if you're just joining us right now, folks, breaking news, evacuation order has been issued, and this is due to several fires. They're calling this the Rucker incident, and these several fires are in the Lompoc area. The evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. If you are in the evacuation area, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying you need to leave immediately.
And we just heard from Mike Eliason with Santa Barbara County Fire. He gave us a really good picture of just what they're up against with this fire. And we're talking of a fire that just is 2.5 hours old, and they've got multiple fronts they're trying to control here. You can see one of the hot spots burning right there in the center of your screen. We saw a live shot not too long ago from Rucker Road at Via Arella, and we were told there that there's a firefight going on right now east of Los Barros School. That's on a hillside where the flames are making a run. The one thing that really I think it would be helping firefighters at this point is that we are not seeing really strong winds. And look at this dramatic video. We probably just got this into the newsroom as well. And look at the wind that is creating. That is what we've been talking about right there.
Yeah, this is actually from Mike Eliason over at Santa Barbara County Fire. And he's saying that this total acreage right now is is more than 300. So very aggressive fire considering it just started or reported after 2 o'clock and 0% contained. And when I say fire, I mean fires, plural, because reports of multiple fires in this Rucker incident.
What's scary about this video is you see the flames that are blowing toward the home, and the home is just exposed. There isn't a whole lot you can really do to try and save that home right there. We have not received any reports, by the way, of any structures being damaged or burned, although by looking at that fire right there, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to hear about structures that have been damaged.
And we know just over an hour ago it was reported that 50 to 100 structures were threatened, so we don't know. That number very well could have jumped in the last hour. So we will,
probably has, yeah.
And we see right now that's the evacuation route. You see a lot of people leaving this fire. This is where Sean Larson is actually on scene. We'll likely have a report from him coming up later, but he was talking to a fire official there, and they were just, and we also heard Michael Eliason talking about this, the importance of keeping these roads clear so these fire engines, these can get up there and assist people, try to fight this fire. They're trying to fight it from the ground, as we saw planes, as we were seeing a live shot, getting a really wide view of the fire. We were seeing the Phos-Chek being dropped, trying to contain blazes like this.
And here, right here is probably a really good shot of an airdrop. Look how black that smoke is right there. It is burning so hot. Hopefully we get to see, there is the Phos-Chek there being dumped. Think about what it takes for that pilot, for that crew to fly right into that. I mean, these guys do an amazing job. This angle right here tells you how good they are, flying right into the middle of that black smoke to make a Phos-Chek drop. But that's really dramatic video right there.
Yeah, great video. This is viewer video, we believe. And again, folks, we want to remind you that evacuation area, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. We've been told Sabata Canyon has been evacuated. They've been getting people out of there. If you are not in an evacuation area, though, if you are in a surrounding area and you're looking at this right now, you're looking outside your window or looking outside your office window and you don't feel safe, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office advising you to go ahead and evacuate and not wait for the notice to come in.
Is this a live picture that we're looking at right here? Or is it's tape? Okay. The reason I was wondering if it was live or tape is that and when you first see the video, you can see the smoke kind of blowing at that location. Mm-hmm. So I would be really nervous. That's why I'd be doing everything I can to get out of that area. But again, here's video that just came into our newsroom about 5 minutes ago. It just shows you how hot this fire is burning.
Yeah, and this is footage coming to us actually from Michael Elias and Santa Barbara County Fire. So very important, folks. You don't want to get close to this fire for your safety. We appreciate the viewer photos. We'll be getting great photos from viewers coming in as they capture images of this blaze. But more importantly, folks, we want you all to be safe. So definitely stay out of the way. Also, so crews can get up and assist this fire.
In other words, if you are going to send us some video, hopefully it's video of you leaving the fire.
Yes.
We don't want you taking pictures going into the fire. That's not what we want to accomplish. But if you take video on the way out, we appreciate it so much because it really gives people a sense at home of really what they're up against. And you can see there people at the bottom of the screen trying to get right past that hot spot right there.
Right. These people have been pouring out. Over 890 phone lines were a reverse 911 call went out for these people to evacuate. We're not sure if there'll be more evacuation areas as crews try to get a handle on this. But again, aggressive fire. At least 300 acres have burned. And again, if you are in that evacuation area, the Red Cross shelter opened at 4 o'clock. That is at Lompoc High School, 515 West College Avenue. And you can go there if you are in that evacuation area, which again will remind you, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission.
And we do have crews on scene. We just went to Vicki Nguyen to get a sense of what was happening where she was at. Again, she was set up at Rucker Road and Via Arella. And since this is called the Rucker incident, they were probably pretty close to where the fire may have started, although Michael Eliason didn't give us that sense. I would imagine they're going to have fire officials going in to really try and pinpoint exactly the different spots where this fire started. But you can see in the last 2.5 hours how quickly this fire has grown, and it's grown without a lot of wind.
Right. And speaking of that wind and that added humidity in the air, which is definitely helping a little bit, here's Jason Stiff from the First Alert Weather Center. He's tracking it all right now. And how are things looking right now, Jason?
It could be worse, but it also could be better. I wanted to show you the comparison of Lompoc to the rest of the central and south coast. One of the coolest spots, and that's a very good thing to see. Thus far, today's high only 76, but it could have been so much worse. Mainly 80s and 90s for highs from Paso Robles southward all the way to Santa Maria and Santa Barbara. Currently at the Lompoc Airport, 68 degrees, a lot of smoke in the air. The wind sustained still at 16 miles an hour. It was gusting to 23 the last hour or two. That has subsided a little bit, but the good news is the humidity is much higher than you'd expect with a fire of that size burning. The onshore flow giving us 70% relative humidity, and that's very good news. The bad news is we're not done with the breezes yet. We're going to have them subsiding overnight tonight, but with the jet stream in the vicinity, as well as yet another area of low pressure moving our direction, not providing any rain, just some gusty wind. That will increase our wind speed again tomorrow. Now, we will expect that wind to subside after the sun goes down tonight, and in most locations around the Central Coast to single-digit wind speed, which is really good news. South Coast, it's a different situation with the jet stream where it is. We're going to have more of a sundowner situation from Gaviota eastward toward Carpinteria, that including Goleta and Santa Barbara, not the Lompoc Valley, though. Late tomorrow morning through the early afternoon hours, the wind will be picking back up, mainly between 15 and 20 miles an hour, but we cannot rule out, especially in the higher elevations, wind gusts of 20 to 30 miles an hour. Also good news as far as the wind is concerned, it will be weaker Saturday night into Sunday than it will be tonight into tomorrow morning. So the wind speed progression is going the right direction for us, but we will still have the temperatures a little bit above average. Also good news as far as the temperatures are concerned. We had upper 70s today with lots of onshore flow tonight through early tomorrow morning. We expect a decrease in the temperatures around the Lompoc Valley tomorrow afternoon, expecting a high of 72 degrees. And tomorrow morning, we'll have the low clouds and fog for a few hours, breaking up again like it did today. Overnight low of 52 degrees, both in Lompoc and in Santa Maria, and more mid to upper 50s around the central and south coast. More details on the current conditions, as well as our first alert forecast coming up throughout the afternoon and evening hours.
Okay, we're taking a look again here at the Rucker Fire, the Rucker incident. And Jason, you've been talking about the weather conditions. Pretty much looking at this picture right here, you can tell a lot about what's going on weather-wise just by looking at this picture.
Yeah, it's pretty steady smoke movement there. Fortunately, it's not laying down even more than it is. As I mentioned, the last couple hours, we've had wind speed of 16 miles an hour sustained at the Lompoc Airport, which is south and west of here. But we've had stronger gusts. So that is the improvement as far as the wind speed is concerned, mainly an onshore flow, which is also bringing in the higher humidity. But we would like that wind speed to decrease. And as it has the last several afternoons and evenings, it will decrease as the sun goes down. We'll have that increasing, though, again late tomorrow morning. Hopefully they have a good handle on the fires before the wind speed increases again late tomorrow morning through the afternoon hours.
So, Jason, quick question. You're talking about an onshore flow. Is it pretty steady onshore flow? Is it erratic? I mean, can you tell from looking at your charts?
Yeah, it has been fairly steady the last several hours around the Lompoc Valley. In general, between 10 and 20 miles an hour sustained. We have had higher gusts between 20 and 30 miles an hour, but it was also stronger further north. San Luis Obispo, for example, had a lot of wind gusts between 25 and 35 miles an hour. We had a lot of low clouds and fog pushing on shore, expecting more of that overnight tonight through tomorrow morning as well. So we will expect the wind to subside overnight tonight, but we're not done with it yet because the jet stream is in the vicinity. Another trough of low pressure is moving our way, and that will keep things unsettled as far as the wind is concerned. Unfortunately, it will not be unsettled as far as any rainfall potential is concerned.
It sounds like the wind is the wild card at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
And we're also learning about some road closures in the area that you folks should just be aware of. Mission Gate, Parissima Road, that is a closure right there. Burton Mesa and Harris Grade, and Parissima Road at Highway 1, and then again at the Harris Grade and Highway 135. These road closures have been put in place around this evacuation zone, which again, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Parissima, and then Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Parissima Mission. And again, a reverse 911 call went out to about 890 phone lines just after 2 o'clock to warn people about this mandatory evacuation for that area as crews try to get on this handle on this Rucker incident, this series of fires that crews are working to contain right now.
Yeah, and you can't read evacuation orders too often because we always have people joining us, especially with continuous live coverage, people joining us who haven't heard the previous times you've read it. So it's good that we keep doing it over and over again, especially for folks in that area who may be tuning in for the first time. If you didn't see the live interview we had maybe 10-15 minutes ago with Santa Barbara County Fire, Mike Eliason, he gave us a good sense of what they're up against. There's one section of this fire, he said it's to the north of Rucker Road and via Arella, where there are two fronts that are burning together. They're going to join, and he said once those fronts join, then they're going to start attacking it. There you go. There's one of the first helicopters we have seen. We've been seeing mostly fixed-wing aircraft going in and making fast-track drops, but here's a bucket drop. And
right there.
They can really target these bucket drops if they can hover over and make the drop, and as opposed to a fixed wing, which makes this long, straight line of Phos-Chek like that. It's just going to be a long... And these guys tend to try and make a drop just ahead of where the fire is. They don't make the drop right on the flames, although they can. They tend to do it just ahead and create a line of Phos-Chek, so when the flames actually reach that point, it burns itself out.
Right, creates that line of containment. And right now we know there's been 0% containment. That's coming from Mike Eliason, and we know over 300 acres have burned in under 3 hours since this fire was first reported. And we're not sure what caused it. Actually, though, we have heard reports that it is possible it could have been from a car dragging a chain that might have sparked the flame. So fire officials and investigators are looking into that, but the big goal right now is to get this fire under control. And you see fire officials there working there. You see the Phos-Chek there on the ground.
They just made a drop in that area right there. And that would be almost kind of a fire break in a way. The flames would hopefully hit that stretch of Phos-Chek that you see there that's that pink, and it would just burn itself out. It wouldn't go past that wide line of Phos-Chek. These guys are out there. This is the hard work. This is the grunt work where they get out there with the chainsaws and the shovels, and they start digging and making fire breaks and fire lines. And these guys work really, really hard, and that type of work will go on for days.
And they've had their work cut out for them this year because we had such a rainy season. So there is all this added fuel for this fire season that this Rucker incident is just looking to gobble up. So as you see, they're out there with those chainsaws trying to help create containment lines.
Now these guys, I mean, they go down to that brush. They've got the chainsaw. And they're up against everything from poison oak to bees to you name it. And that is a tough job because they run into so many things that you never even think about. And when you hear about firefighters come back with minor injuries, or they come back with bee stings, or they've got poison oak all over their leg or their hands, that's because they get right down into that brush to fight the fire.
And again, if you're just joining us, and again, we're going to give you that evacuation area again. Rucker Road east to Harris Grade, north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. You can go to the Red Cross shelter that's been set up at Lompoc High School. That's at 515 West College Avenue.
And we've been talking about the firefight at Los Barros. That live shot we saw right there, that is right across the street from Los Barros High School. Or is it a high school?
It's
an elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Los Barros Elementary School. This is probably the hill, the firefight we've been hearing about. It's burning right across the street from Los Barros Elementary School. And at some point, if they pull back, we'll be able to see the school in the background. But here's a helicopter coming in to make another water drop. Mm-hmm. And they're really targeting those. They can target those drops right there.
Yep, they're hitting it from the air. They're hitting it from the ground. We've seen these fire engines going up to these fire lines. You're seeing the Phos-Chek. You're seeing the helicopters with the water drop. So you're seeing really an all-out blitz to contain this fire that started just after 2 o'clock.
And they're dragging the hose out there into the brush. So the fire probably is to the left, I would imagine, and working its way toward them.
And here on a map right here, you can see on the right there, near that 246 line, north of 246, that's where the fire is burning. And if you look to the west, that's Lompoc High School, southwest of it, 515 West College Avenue. That's where you can evacuate. The gym there is set up. And we see Arroyo Grande crews deploying as well. You're seeing multiple agencies responding to this fire, trying to get this thing out of control. Again, it's burned 300 acres in less than 3 hours, and they're out there with the hoses trying to get to those lines. We saw crews out there, as you were mentioning, working in very hazardous conditions with chainsaws, dealing with all kinds of conditions like poison oak and everything else as they try to create those containment lines near that Phos-Chek, which you can actually see out there in the distance where they dropped
and
that.
You can see Vicki Nguyen carrying the tripod, trying to get ready probably for a live shot as well. We also received a notice from Lompoc Police Department. Only service animals right now are allowed at the shelter. This is the Red Cross shelter that's set up at Lompoc High School at 515 West College Avenue. If you do have an animal and you need evacuation services, please call County Animal Services, and I'm going to give you the number. It's 805-681-4332. Again, this would be assistance with animal evacuations, and they want you to call County Animal Services at 805-681-4332.
Also very important if you are in an evacuation area. It's very important when you get out, keep those roads open because fire crews are trying to make their way up. Again, they're trying to hit this fire from all angles, from the air and from the ground, and these big fire engines trying to make their way up to these fire lines. They need the roadways to get through, so it's very important. We know you want to take photos and send video. You've been sending us great video, and we're grateful for that, but we also want you to be safe and give crews the opportunities to get the upper hand on this blaze. And as you see right here, just very, very aggressive. This was the blaze. This is actually at Rucker Road right here, which is what they've named this incident.
You know, we've seen the video there right here at Rucker Road. We just saw the video live shot from near the Los Barros School. The other area that we really haven't talked much about is there's another front that's south of the Rucker Road Via Arella area, and it's near the mission, the La Prisma mission. And that area is wide open. We've had several fires in recent years that have threatened the mission. They've been able to save it every time. I don't believe there's ever been damage to the Prisma mission, at least in recent memory. But that is an area that is wide open, and there is a fire burning in that area as well. So we will try to get an update. That would be to the south of the Rucker Road live shot that we've been looking at. Again, if we can get information on that, we will pass it along to you. But again, this is threatening the La Prisma mission.
And again, we had a very wet, rainy season, so this is this is a lot of vegetation, a lot of dry vegetation. Fortunately, one thing that is helping a little bit, as Jason Stiff was explaining, is that moisture in the air. The humidity levels, they could be a lot worse. And he joins us now. And Jason, what are conditions like right now as crews try to get the upper hand on this?
Unfortunately, we do have some of the onshore flow. I wanted to make a comparison of the Lompoc high today. Thus far, 76 compared to other central and south coast locations. It could be so much worse. 80s and 90s everywhere, except areas around Lompoc and Vandenberg Air Force Base. Currently, 68 degrees. Humidity is high. That's what has that onshore flow. 70%. The wind still 16 miles an hour out of the west, but the gusts have not been as significant over the last hour to hour and a half. It had been up over 20 miles an hour. Comparing Lompoc to the rest of the Central Coast, as you can see, most locations are warmer. Morro Bay is cooler at 62. It's 69 degrees in Santa Maria, 68 degrees in Lompoc, also mid-60s around Vandenberg Air Force Base, where we have 75% humidity. So at least in the vicinity of the Lompoc Valley, the humidity is high and the temperatures are not very high. As you can see, most locations sustained wind between 10 and 25 miles an hour. We have had higher gusts, and we're still expecting some more of those. As we move into the overnight hours, it will weaken. It's going to return tomorrow, though, because of the jet stream in the vicinity, another trough of low pressure moving our way. We're trying to get some of that onshore flow like we had last night, and we are expecting the increase in the low clouds and fog and a decrease in the actual wind speed itself by 9 to 9:30. Most Central Coast locations with wind less than 10 miles an hour. South Coast will be a different situation. Sundowner effect occurring with a lot of wind between 20 and 35 miles an hour. No wind advisory just yet for the South Coast, but we'll have some more wind coming up late tomorrow morning through the afternoon hours. Many areas between 10 and 20 miles an hour with gusts between 20 and 30. Now, it will not be as strong late Saturday into Sunday. So as the firefighters do a great job getting on top of these fires as they're going around the Lompoc Valley, we will have more favorable conditions and also cooler temperatures around the Lompoc area with the inclusion of the marine layer pushing back on shore more than what Futurecast is showing. We'll have low clouds and fog late tonight through early tomorrow morning, mild overnight lows. Lompoc dropping down to 52 degrees. Today's high has been in the upper 70s. Tomorrow, not as high for the Lompoc Valley, expecting a high of 72 with some gusty late morning and early afternoon hour wind through the Lompoc Valley.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. And again, if you're just joining us right now, there is a Red Cross Evacuation Center that's been set up at Lompoc High School. And CJ, as you were saying, only service animals are being taken at the evacuation center at this time.
Yeah, and if you do need help with animal evacuations, the County Animal Services would like you to call the number on your screen. That is 805-681-4332. Yeah, since this is out in a rural area, you may have ranches. You have ranches with horses or other animals. So it's difficult. If you've ever seen somebody try to evacuate a ranch with a lot of animals, it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of skill, and so then the question is, once you get the horses loaded up, where do you take them? So this is that's the number to call if you do need help with that.
A very difficult situation regarding that too, because this evacuation area, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying to leave immediately, and this area again, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, and it includes all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. We'll be getting some great photos from viewers and from county fire officials as you just see those plumes of smoke, just very ominous.
Yeah, there's one from Mike Eliason. We've been looking at the video, I think, that's attached to that social media. Again, if you send us anything in, please send it while you're getting away from the fire. We don't want anybody taking pictures going into the fire. There's the video. It's this probably was shot pretty close to probably the beginning of the fire, I would imagine. Mike Eliason was out there. That might be close to the source of the fire, especially since it's along Rucker Road. This video is from the Rucker Road area.
And if you look at that tree right there blowing, you were mentioning earlier how these wildfires can create sort of their own weather systems within, and you see just how aggressively that's blowing. You see those wind conditions right there as those flames really gather around all that vegetation. And again, if you've had to evacuate, you are evacuating, because they're saying even if you're in surrounding areas. Again, this fire, 300 acres in less than 3 hours, so it is very, very aggressive. 0% contained right now. That's according to Mike Eliason. And if you need to get out, just remember to just bring what you absolutely need. So prescriptions, special medications, things like that. If you have time to grab a change of clothes, if you have a first aid kit, flashlights, sanitation supplies, things like that.
So we're going to throw it out right now to Sean Larson. And he is with some folks who are doing the smart thing, and they're looking at this fire from a distance. Sean. Sean, can you hear us? You know, it might be loud there because with all when you have helicopters flying overhead, it's sometimes hard to hear. So we will try to get Sean's attention and see if he can join us in a moment. But you can tell he's got a bunch of people around him. He's got a helicopter overhead. It might be hard to hear us. But again, he's with a group of people who are looking at this fire, watching it from a distance, which is exactly what you should be doing.
Absolutely, and we have 2 reporters on the ground right now. You're getting full team coverage right now from combined resources of KCOY 12 and News Channel 3 as we give you continuing coverage on this Rucker incident, as they're calling it, because again, it's not just one fire they're talking about right now. It's a few fires that have erupted, and as you were saying before, CJ, as we learned from Mike Eliason, the 2 of these fires are actually going to merge, and they're waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, and when they do, you're going to have a pretty good fire front, I would imagine, if you've got 2 different sections come together, become one big section, and then they'll have a sense of where that whole front is going to be burning, and they can really start to attack it. But when you've got, you got a front burning over here, and you have another front burning over here, and you got flames going in this direction, and you got homes scattered in the middle of it, or ranches scattered in the middle of it, it really does. And there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of chaos. Then you got people trying to get out of the area like this, and you're trying to get fire equipment in, and it takes a lot. And then you got helicopters overhead, and you got fixed wing coming in making Phos-Chek and water drops.
Really, there's
a lot going on right now.
It's been a full court blitz too by fire officials to try to contain this. They're fighting it from the air. We saw the Phos-Chek, we saw the helicopters dropping water, as you see right there, and you see fire crews heading up there with chainsaws trying to create containment lines. And now Sean Larson is ready to go. He joins us now, talking to some people that are watching this fire from their homes. Sean, you're on the ground. What can you tell us?
Hey guys, I think we're having some issues with the IFB, but if you can hear me, a massive fire out here just outside of Lompoc. What we know is that about 300 acres have burned so far. A lot of homes are threatened right now. All these homes along Rucker are in the homes that are threatened zone. You can see a lot of people, though, that are still hanging around. See some people here that have been hanging out on this side of the street, and literally just across the way, this whole area is on fire. Firefighters trying to get this under control. Reverse 911 phone calls have been going out to about 900 homes in the area, is what I'm told. And like I said, about 100 homes are threatened in this area. I'm joined by James Jackson right now. He's one of the people that lives in these homes. James, and you'll just look at me if you can talk to me about this scene out here today. I got the mic.
Well, basically, I got the call that there was fires out here. There's about five fires going on in the area. I came down to check on the house immediately. My roommate was here. He didn't even know. He was inside. I gave him a phone call. He came out to check, and he flipped out immediately. We go out to the backyard, kind of check things out in the front. There's a fire right here, right across the street. The bushes were burning. We could hear the neighbors' alarm, their reverse 911 call. Their phone was just ringing off the hook.
That's right. We've been hearing that phone ringing for the past 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, and we have a cell phone, so it's not exactly the same. But, our neighbor's been here, probably long-term resident, 30, 40 years, has a hard line, and his phone's been going off the hook. He's not going to leave either. He's been wetting his house down, yard. He actually went across the street and did some firework damage, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we just spoke with him. That's Skip over there in the hat. George, actually, we've got a dozer here doing some work, trying to put a containment line up here. Definitely want to show you that. And James, talk to me about you headed back up here and you decided to stick around despite the evacuation order, right? And actually, how did you get the evacuation order? Because you didn't get a phone call, so how did you find out?
Well, we actually had the sheriff's helicopter. We were in the backyard, and they were flying by doing dumps on the fire, and we noticed they looked down. He stopped, and he almost flipped his siren on the sheriff's helicopter, and then they sent an officer. The officer parked in front of our house. Hey guys, know you're in there. I'm calling an evacuation. Everybody needs to leave. And we don't want to leave. I want to see what happens. You know what I mean? I don't know. I want to see what happens.
Sure, yeah. Quite the scene out here. James, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll give you another live look at what's going on here, and we do have some evacuation orders east of Harris Grade and north of 246 through Savada Canyon. Another few bullet points of information that I do want to mention with you. Los Barros elementary students were evacuated to Coast Hills Credit Union in Vandenberg Village. Lompoc police are asking that people steer clear of this area so that first responders can have easy access to get to this fire. And service animals are allowed there at that shelter at Lompoc High School. We've added a phone number on our website for other animals and where you can bring them. So once again, this fire is starting a little before 2 p.m. About 300 acres have burned. About 100 structures in this area are threatened, but as you can see, some people hanging out to see what happens. This gentleman across the way, Skip, who we were talking about, his phone's been going off the hook, ringing off the hook with a reverse 911 phone call. He's been out here with his hose spraying down his home. He's been here since 1970. He says he's not going anywhere. And he had his hose across the street here and was spraying down some of this area. So quite the scene out here. You can see firefighters have their handful with a fire that seemingly could be burning for days. We're going to toss it back to you guys there in the studio.
All right, thank you, Sean. Sean, you just ran into one of the biggest challenges for firefighters, and that is that the firefighters try to get you out. They get the sheriff's department to come in and get people to evacuate, and many times people just don't want to leave. They either want to stay behind, they want to protect their property, protect their home, but at some point, if that fire becomes big enough, the firefighters have to just basically, and I've seen them do it, when you've got people standing right there, a group of people who've up until now have refused to leave, they have to just turn around and say, we're going.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to follow us.
Yep.
And they can't force you to leave, but at some point it becomes so dangerous to actually be in one of those areas, because when the flames start to hit those big trees or the big brush, it's pretty surprising how powerful those flames are and how hot it gets.
Right. And with these fires, and you see especially aggressive fires like this, where you see 300 acres burned in 3 hours, every resource is needed. So when people don't evacuate, that stretches resources even thinner if they have to get people out if it gets really bad. So one of the reasons they issue these orders is it also allows crews to free up their resources to focus all their attention on just trying to contain the fire.
Yeah, and right now the you've got sheriff's deputies going around trying to get people door to door, trying to get people out. The gentleman also that Sean just interviewed brought up another really good point, and that is if you live in a neighborhood that's being evacuated and you're packing up and you're getting out, and your neighbor's getting out, and you have a neighbor who's older, somebody who's lived there for a long time that may not know about it, take a few moments to run over, knock on the door, try and give them a call, make sure they're not home, make sure they get out, they know about it. just takes a few seconds just to make sure your neighbors are safe.
Right, senior citizens, people that are maybe a little more vulnerable
homebound
in these types of situations. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you're checking on everybody and getting out. And also, another reason they want people out is they want to keep those roads clear, to bring up those fire engines up. We see, dozers moving in. They need that road space to get up and in there. So do the fire engines. And then again, it's an all-out assault to contain this fire. You see the helicopters that were flying in earlier, dropping water. We see Phos-Check. It looks like there might even be an ambulance or some kind of official car down there in the distance that looks like that's a fire truck down there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, making their way up it. You can actually see that Phos-Check line down there out in the distance, right?
We should say, top of the hour, 5 o'clock, you were watching a simulcast, News Channel 3 and KCOI 12 Central Coast News. We are covering the Rucker Fire. This is the Rucker incident. Started around 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's not just one fire. It is 3 fires that are burning on multiple fronts. It actually started with as many as 6, maybe more. We had the gentleman we just heard from there on Rucker Road said it actually started with maybe 7 or 8. So, which is suspicious enough. But again, this started around 2 o'clock. It's burned at least 300 acres, probably much more at this point. The last acreage update we've had was probably about an hour ago. And it's 0% contained.
Yep, and it's moving very quickly, and we're going to go right now to Vicki Nguyen. She joins us now live with the very latest. And Vicki, you've been watching this fire. You've been right there near the fire lines, and what can you tell us?
Right now I'm on Via Lato, right across from Los Barros Elementary School, and just walking around the area I could tell that these students probably left in a hurry. School jackets are still on coat hangers, and there were hotshot crews from Arroyo Grande in the area, and they are now up in this mountainside right there here, this big hill. Fire crews from Santa Barbara County actually went up there, took out their chainsaws, and started building a line around hose. And now hotshot crews are walking up there, and they are cutting down the trees and fuel for the fire along the hose that Santa Barbara County firefighters have set up. And as you can see, they're working in an area that looks like it's orangey red. Now that is Phos-Check. That's what they call it, but what it is actually fire retardant. It's this powder that's mixed with these chemical solutions that they spray on top of areas ahead of the fire, so that way they can put out some hot spots or put out flames before or try to prevent flames from entering that area. So they're trying to contain and box these multiple fires. And right now, back here, there's a fire. Over there, there's a big fire. And over there, that's close to Rucker, where we were earlier. And in the distance over there, there was also another fire where firefighters are also working on. But for the most part, in this Via Lato neighborhood here, it's been quiet. We have seen some sheriff's deputies going from door to door. For example, this car right here, their job is to go around and check out who's at home, and they try to keep a head count of who's inside the homes, if there's any pets that have been left behind. We've seen Animal County Services trucks in the area as well. They're probably checking on animals that might have been left behind by their owners. But for the most part, it's been pretty quiet. We've only seen official cars in the area. However, when we were on Rucker Drive over there, there were definitely a lot of people who were still hanging around, even drinking beers in front of the fires there. They weren't leaving. But for the most part, sheriff's deputies have gone door to door and told people that they need to evacuate. And just to stress what our anchors have been telling you this entire time, if you live in the area, if you have not received an evacuation order, but you've received a warning, you might want to leave if you feel like you can't get out of the area as fast as others. So just be smart about it and leave if you feel like it's the time to leave. But for now, we are going to be here where it's pretty calm, but after this, we're probably going to switch to another location just to see what's going on in the area. According to Michael Eliason from Santa Barbara County Fire, he told us that the fire remains at 300 acres at 0% containment. So hopefully the next time we check in, we'll have a better containment amount to give you. But this is what we have for now. I'm Vicki Nguyen reporting live in Lompoc.
All right, thank you very much, Vicki. And now we're going to go to Lompoc Police Chief Pat Walsh. He joins us now on the phone. And Chief Walsh, thank you for joining us right now. This is Danny Max, KCOY 12. What is your message right now to people in that area that are in those evacuation zones?
Hey, Danny, I think first off they should just pay attention to the county fire's evacuation orders. They come pretty regularly. They're communicating via their Nixle. And the other problem is the people that are getting in their cars to get a better vantage point and clogging up the roads around where the firefighters are trying to work.
Chief, this is CJ Ward. Did you see this fire break out? Did you see it start, or were you there near? This is your day off, is that right?
I actually took the afternoon off, and I saw a couple of the plumes start, and they just. Yeah, I could see it from my vantage point. So I don't know how they started, but I just wanted to make sure that people, if they're out and about and they know something about it, whether it's a chain dragon or it's an arsonist, just one thing I know about Lompoc is they'll talk, and if they know something, they'll let us know. So.
Sure. And how many fires did you see?
At the beginning, I saw 8 plumes.
Yeah, that's what we've heard from some of the witnesses, that there were as many as 8, which obviously, and it was probably along the side of the road, so I would imagine fire investigators looking at the possibility of maybe somebody dragging a chain or something like that. But then that would explain why we've got fires going off in every direction. And I know you've been busy trying to get people to heed these evacuation warnings.
Yeah, well, and I have friends and co-workers that are in the evacuation area, so we're all just trying to help each other out. I will say this, though, like you guys, the amount of work that the fire department's put on this is pretty impressive to watch, and pretty proud of them.
Yeah, we've seen some amazing drops. We just see how hard they're working out there right now, and they're doing it. We've been talking about how challenging this is for firefighters. They don't have a lot of backup at this point. They do have some air support, but when you have a fire spread out as much as this one, and you've got just a certain number of bodies out there trying to put out a fire, these guys are working really hard right now.
Yes, they are. They are. My hat's off to them.
And what is your advice and reasoning? Because some people that aren't evacuating, what are some of the added complications and hazards for county officials, city officials trying to assist this fire? What are some of the issues that come up when people don't evacuate? How can this create hazards, and what extra complications does this add to you guys as you try to get this fire out and assist the fire department in their efforts?
Well, it's very difficult when somebody gets boxed in when they could have left, and then they can't, and then they have to be rescued. And firefighters and police officers have to put themselves in harm's way to go in through a fire to get them out when they could have gotten out ahead of time. So, things can be replaced, and that's what insurance is for, and it's just better to be safe than sorry.
All right, great advice. And it's Lompoc Police Chief Pat Walsh. We actually saw this fire start at least near the beginning, and we appreciate your efforts and your officers' efforts to try and get people out of the burn zone.
Well, I appreciate the firefighters, man. They are putting themselves out there today.
All right, well, thank you for calling in and giving us your perspective on this fire at this point. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Chief. Be safe. All right, and again, folks, if you're just joining us right now, some breaking news. Evacuation orders have been issued to several fires in the Lompoc area, and as Lompoc Police Chief Pat Walsh just mentioned, 8 plumes of smoke he saw. Very suspicious there. 8 different plumes. So as you said, that could have been a chain, car dragging a chain, creating sparks. And that evacuation area, again, this is coming to us from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And they go on to say if you are not in the evacuation area but you feel you are in danger, you're being advised to evacuate and not wait to get that order or warning, and updates will be sent when they're available. So far, a reverse 911 call was sent out a few hours ago to at least 890 phone lines.
All right, let's throw it over to Jason Stiff with more on the weather out there.
Yeah, I've had a lot of photos sent in by various viewers. It's fantastic to get these photos. Thank you so much. You can always email them to me here at the station. You can send them to me on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure that you're taking them from a long distance away. Stay away from the fire. We don't want anyone to get in harm's way. Anna sent this picture in with all the smoke plumes as well. And Patricia sent this photo in. You can see one of the helicopters taking off, another one getting some of the water to help put out the fire. Thank you so much, both to Anna and Patricia, for sending those photos in. Now, we did have the coolest weather around the Central Coast, around the Lompoc area today, which is very, very good. 76 degrees thus far has been the high around Lompoc. Everybody else around the region, the 80s and 90s. And for the second consecutive hour, still 68 degrees at the Lompoc airport and still 70% humidity. The west wind continues at 16 miles an hour. Thankfully, not as gusty as it has been, but we will still have that wind subsiding as we move through the overnight hours. It's also 68 degrees in Santa Maria, but thankfully it's a lot warmer in other places. Many more 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we still have some gusty wind in some locations, 17 miles an hour in San Luis Obispo, which has had 32 mile an hour wind gusts earlier in the afternoon. The reason why we have the gusty wind, the jet stream still in the vicinity, the breezes will continue. Unfortunately, the rain is not going to be coming here, but that trough of low pressure west of Oregon is moving our direction. So it's going to continue to be unsettled in a windy way, but unfortunately not so much in a rainfall way. Now, as far as the wind is concerned, it will be weakening over the next several hours, especially once the sun goes down, to be less than 10 miles an hour. However, late tomorrow morning through the early afternoon hour, the wind will pick up again, mainly between 10 and 20 miles an hour around the Lompoc Valley, but still some wind gusts, especially in the higher terrain, between 20 and 30 miles an hour. The good news also, it will not be as strong as we move into Saturday night into Sunday, and we'll also have more of the marine layer influence pushing on shore. Now, we will have more low clouds and fog than what Futurecast is depicting. If you remember from late last night, we had visibility at or below a quarter mile to a half mile around Lompoc, Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Santa Maria. We did get out of those clouds, and we also saw some more sunshine, but tomorrow's highs will be cooler. Tomorrow morning for Lompoc, low clouds and fog breaking out of the low clouds late in the morning, expecting a low of 52 and a high of 72 degrees for Lompoc. Hotter than that, though, in other locations. I'm going to keep my eyes on the forecast and the current conditions all throughout the afternoon and evening hours for this fire, as well as your 7-day forecast.
Thank you very much for your weather coverage, Jason. And we're getting a live picture right now. Again, if you're just joining us, breaking news, Rucker incident, as it's being called, because it's multiple brush fires reported, and this has prompted evacuations east of Harris Grade, north of Highway 246 near Lompoc. Again, that evacuation area, Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. This is from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. That evacuation notice was sent to approximately 890 phone lines, and people are being told to evacuate to a Red Cross shelter that's been set up at Lompoc High School. That's at 515 West College Avenue. But CJ, we've been keeping an eye on this fire and looking at it right now out there in the distance. You see that patch of Phos-Chek out there to the left of the screen. We've been seeing an all-out blitz from the sky. We've tankers dropping Phos-Chek. We've seen helicopters dropping water and fire engines and dozers, everything. All resources going to contain this very aggressive blaze. It's already burned 300 acres in 3 hours.
Yeah, it broke out around 2 o'clock. And the other thing, by looking at this live picture here, you can tell the smoke is pushing away from us. So we're kind of looking at the backside of just one section of this fire, and it's pushing away from us, pushing away. I'm not sure exactly where we're set up. Is this, do we know where this live picture is set up? Do we know our camera location? Now, maybe we can get that and I'll pass it on to you, but it's burning in the opposite direction. We know of 300 acres was the last thing we heard. That was quite a while ago. And up to 100 structures are threatened at this point. And we have video that came in earlier. Michael Eliason shot it, and you can just show how close it showed how close the flames are to some of the structures there. This is the clip right here. This obviously was taken along Rucker Road, probably near the beginning when the fire broke out. And you can see no structure protection there. It's just creating its own wind, and it's just an inferno. This is what we've been seeing on some of the different fire fronts, and there are several of them right now. We had one at Los Barros School that we saw not too long ago, where they're fighting it across the street. We have 2 other sections that are north of the Rucker Road via Arella area. You got another one in Mission Hills. So the firefighters are really spread out in this fire.
Yeah, and as Sean Larson was showing us earlier, there were a lot of people who were in evacuation zones that weren't evacuating, and we just spoke with Lompoc Police Chief Pat Walsh, who was saying that it creates a lot of problems when people are in evacuation zones and they don't evacuate, because if fire crews have to go in and get you out, that can be hazardous for the fire crews, and right now they need all the resources they can to try to contain this blaze.
And this is the Los Barros School shot. And you can see the flame. You can't see the flames, but you see the smoke just kind of coming up over the top of the school. And if you were just looking at the screen, the firefighters would be right behind us. They're setting up on the road where our camera location is set up, and they're in the brush back there trying to cut through and make a fire line. So we've been watching them in action through this whole thing, not just from, we've seen a couple different aircraft. We've also seen some helicopters out there as well. So they're really trying to fight this fire. I'd imagine we have mutual aid in effect right now. We've got firefighters coming in from all over the area to also help out the firefighters here in the Lompoc area, because they're going to certainly need this help throughout the night.
Right, and very important too, folks, to keep those roads open. Some of those very narrow roads are needed for fire engines and dozers to get up to these front lines of this fire as they attempt to contain it. And also there are some road closures to tell you about. Mission Gate, Purisima Road, that's closed down, and then Burton Mesa, the Harris Grade, and then Purisima Road at Highway 1, and then again at Harris Grade at Highway 135. So there have been road closures as a result of this Rucker Fire incident. Because again, we're not just talking about one fire. We've been talking about several plumes of smoke, and as Lompoc Police Chief Pat Walsh said, 8 plumes of smoke he saw on his day off as he saw this happening, and we just spoke with him a moment ago.
Yeah, 8 plumes of smoke. I talked about it when I first joined you on set. When you have 8 plumes or at least 8 starting points or 8 ignition points along the same route, the first thing you've got to think of is, okay, there's a vehicle that was dragging a chain or something like that was igniting fires along the way. That's the first thing. There's been nothing official by fire officials, by the way. This is just what we've seen happen many times, too many times over the years. We had a similar incident up on Cuesta Grade not too long ago. I think it was in the last maybe 6 or 9 months, where we had a vehicle dragging the chain up Cuesta Grade, started some fires. But then at the same time, you've got this vehicle dragging the chain, starting fires. You have people behind this vehicle who are calling 911 at the same time. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that that's what happened, depending on the circumstances of this whole thing. But it just doesn't make any sense that you would have 8 ignition points along the same route. It's got to be vehicle related somehow. I mean, the only other thing would be arson.
Right.
Somebody intentionally setting fires along the way, but most of the time, when we've seen this over the years, it's been a vehicle that was dragging a chain or something like that.
Right, and then we've gotten some great, it's actually from meteorologist Jason Stiff posting this great photo onto his page, and we've gotten some great photos from viewers. We really appreciate you being the 5th Estate out there with your cameras, taking photos and sending them to us. It really just aids us in getting the story out to you to keep you safe, but we also want you to be safe. So that means don't get too close to this fire. CJ, I think you said it perfectly. We want to see you take photos as you're getting away from this fire, not going towards it.
Sometimes when you're too close to the fire, it doesn't give you the perspective. So if you're a distance away, a long way away, safe distance away, you sometimes get you can take a better picture and see the scope of how big that fire is.
And we're seeing some of that, just that shot we just saw a moment ago. It's very alarming, to see this. And so a lot of people are watching this. If you're at home watching, you're watching us right now, and maybe you're outside those evacuation areas, but you don't feel safe.
And right there, that right there shows the long, so you can see the vehicles all lined up trying to get out of the area.
People people evacuating. Definitely great that people are taking evacuation orders. Because again, a very, very aggressive fire, 300 acres in 3 hours. But, very unsettling to see this. So if you feel uncomfortable outside of these areas, Santa Barbara County sheriffs are advising that you go ahead and evacuate. Don't wait. Because no telling how much this fire will spread before crews are able to contain it.
Grab whatever vital documents you need, some medications, and get out. That's pretty much it. And
one of the best places to get out is the Red Cross Evacuation Shelter. That's at Lompoc High School. Again, folks, that is at 515 West College Avenue in the gym there. That is an evacuation center for the areas that have been affected by this.
All right, we have somebody from Air Pollution Control on the telephone. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. This is CJ Ward, Channel 3. What can you tell us about first of all, can you identify, can you give us your name, please?
Hi, this is Erin Arlen Janae. I'm the director of the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District.
Thank you very much. What can you tell us about this fire? I mean, obviously, we've been looking at a live picture, and you can just see how much smoke there is. What can you tell us about the health threat that this fire is posing?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of smoke in the air. There are a lot of particles. It's very difficult to determine exactly where that smoke will impact individuals throughout the community. It will definitely vary, but we want to advise individuals to pay attention. If you can see the smoke, if you can smell the smoke, we want you to take caution and use common sense to protect your family's health. We're in the process of issuing an air quality watch right now with the Department of Public Health and the Air Pollution Control District, letting everyone know about the potential air quality impacts from this wildfire.
All right, and what is some basic tips for people maybe that will get some of this smoke come towards their homes, especially people that are the elderly, people with asthma, people that are a little more vulnerable to the smoke? What kind of advice do you have for people?
Well, we want to make sure that those individuals that are more sensitive, that have heart or lung disease or asthma, as you mentioned, that they take extra precaution. They limit their time that they spend outdoors. They stay inside as much as possible. If you have smoke in your neighborhood, we recommend that you close your windows. You don't have your air conditioning pulling in the smoke from outdoors. And if you need to, if it's really high levels of smoke, we do recommend that you get to an area in the region that has cleaner air to breathe.
That's great advice, because even some people that maybe don't have the flames encroaching on their home, maybe they're getting that smoke, and if you are susceptible to that, that's a great thing to keep in mind. Possibly evacuate just to get to somewhere where there's better air if you're susceptible to some of those situations.
Yeah, definitely. We have information on our website. It's updated every hour, and it has air quality monitoring data from throughout the entire county. So we do recommend that you pay attention and check out our website. It's at ourair.org, and you'll be able to see the current air quality conditions there.
And I would imagine a fire of this size that's burned so quickly, the area that could be under this air quality watch could be quite large. How do you determine that?
It's very difficult to determine. It really depends on the wind conditions, the amount of dispersion that the smoke is able to be just reduced with a higher wind, blowing it further around and maybe dispersing it so it isn't as concentrated. Really, we just want everyone to pay attention of their current surrounding air quality conditions and use common sense when they can see or smell the smoke.
That's very good advice about the common sense. We definitely, all right. And Erin, we appreciate you coming on and to offer that advice right now, because, yes, definitely air quality going to be a concern. And, CJ, as you pointed out, in an area even bigger than these evacuation zones possibly.
Well, thank you for your advice and passing on a word of warning to some of the folks out there, some of our viewers who may not really understand the impact that really the smoke can have. Sometimes that can be a bigger threat to some people than the fire itself.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, CJ and Danny, for the opportunity. I appreciate you calling us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. All right, we see another flare up there in the middle of the screen. This fire is going to be burning for quite a while. We're going to keep an eye on the situation. You're watching the Rucker incident. Again, not one fire, but 3 fires. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. I'm CJ Ward alongside Danny Max here. We are with live continuing coverage of the Rucker incident, as they're calling it. We're not talking about one fire, but 3 fires that are burning in the Lompoc area. Yeah, this started just about after 2 o'clock, and mandatory evacuation warnings have gone into effect in an area east of Lompoc. And we're going to read you that area right now. According to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, that evacuation area is Rucker Road east to Harris Grade and north to La Purísima and Sabata Canyon, including all of North Mission Hills and La Purísima Mission. And Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office saying if you are not in the evacuation area, but you feel that you are in danger, you are encouraged to go ahead and evacuate. Because again, 300 acres in 3 hours is a very, very aggressive fire, moving very quickly as fire crews are dropping FOS check, dropping water from the sky, and you see fire engines and dozers going in. It's an all-out blitz to try to contain multiple fires right now. And we've got 0% containment, so this thing's completely burning out of control. We have got the Red Cross has set up a shelter at Lompoc High School. That's at 515 West College Avenue in Lompoc. So if you need to evacuate, you can go there to Lompoc High School. And the only good thing that we've seen in this entire fire, if there is anything that's good, is the wind. The wind really has not played a major factor in this. It really has helped out the firefighters. Yeah, that's been very, very helpful. And again, also air quality, a concern. We just talked to an official saying that people with asthma, the elderly, lung disease, you definitely want to keep an eye on the smoke as well if it gets into your area, and use common sense. Limit your time outside. Keep your windows closed. Don't have your air conditioning running so it's bringing in a lot of smoke from outside into it. And speaking of the weather, we're going to get things over to Jason Stiff. He joins us now monitoring conditions on the ground from the First Alert Weather Center. Yeah, I want to show you a couple other photos that were sent in, some amazing and scary looking photos. Megan Clifford sent a couple of photos in. Look at all the smoke and all the people trying to go through. See one of the firefighting planes dropping some of the FOS check there. Now currently near the fire itself at Lompoc Airport, 68 degrees. The wind west at 16 miles an hour. Thankfully the humidity is high
it's at 70%. And this area between Santa Maria, Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Lompoc, one of the coolest of the central and south coast. We still have mainly wind between 10 and 20 miles an hour, but it will be weakening overnight tonight. Thankfully, below 10 miles an hour, the wind will strengthen again late tomorrow morning through the afternoon.
All right, thank you, Jason. We're going to have more live coverage of the Rucker incident on ABC. We're going to take you to World News Tonight and CBS Evening News on Channel 12. Again, we will be back with more live coverage of the Rucker incident coming up at 6 o'clock. We'll see you then.